to a nice lunchtime discussion for us. I'd like to introduce you to Josef Langerman. Josef is an associate of ours now for about 2 years, and many of you have met Josef already. But we've never had him in Manchester, so it's great to have him around here. Why is Josef in Manchester? As you know, an important element of what we do in GDI, and particularly in the cluster that looks at ICTs and development issues, would particularly be to not avoid the big issue of how do you introduce systems into organizations. So Josef is not only a software engineer by training, but he's also practicing that for a number of years, and he's been with Standard Bank now for 12 years, Josef, and currently heading up the software development section over there, and was responsible over the past 3 or so years to transition from what's probably known to us as a more of traditional software development setup to an agile environment. And through his experience, I think we would like to learn from that. Particularly, Josef is going to talk today. I don't know what he's going to talk about exactly, but the ideas that we seeded him with is to say, can we reflect on the changes that's taking place in the nature of systems development? Because the currents are flowing in different directions today, and we want to kind of pick up what's going on from somebody that's academically competent and practicing academia and can speak our language, but that's actually standing squarely within practice. And in that sense, it's a great privilege for us to have Josef around. Josef, welcome, and over to you.
Sure, that sounds far more impressive than what it really is. Is it okay if I sit, or do you want me to stand, or whatever? Maybe I'll do both. So, firstly, I'm going to cheat today a lot. This is not my presentation, but it's a good friend of mine's presentation. But this made such a big impact on me that I want to share it with you. So if I go back, let's see if this works. This guy is Adam Jacob, and 2 years ago, I was fortunate enough to give a talk in Silicon Valley, and this was a chef conference. Now, chef is a DEVOPS tool, so don't get tired of there's no product stuff in here, but this guy gave a 2-hour talk that just summed up everything so nicely for me, and it became almost my little guidebook and things that guided me to think of how to do these organizational changes. And again, if you meet Adam, typical West Coast, if he has a beard like you, looks like a system administrator, you know, that type of guys. And I've had him at my house, and we had we call it a braai, you call it a barbecue. And the stories this guy tells you is amazing. So just to give you a sense of what the new universities don't like it when I tell you guys this, but what this practitioners look like. So this guy never went to university. After school, he met a girl, you know, as one do, and he followed her all across California. And he even changed his religion for her. She's a Mormon, so he became a Mormon. And what happened was he started building at the beginning of the internet age. He started in somebody's garage, a dentist's garage, and he built a little internet exchange type thing. And he worked there, and then he realized things broke up with this girl a year later, so then he realized girls really like it if you have cash. So then he decided he needs to. He's not English, by the way, so what he then decided to do is he went to work for a big corporate, and everything was how to get stuff to production quick, and they used a tool called Puppet. Now, they used a freeware license, and for this, there was a bug in this whole thing. So he mailed the head of development that Puppet and said there's a bug in your system. So we know about it. It's like number 900 on our bucket list. And by the way, because you're a freeware client, we're not going to help you. This dude wasn't happy with that at all. Then he went to a library and took out a book on mathematics, because it's a mathematical problem. It's graph theory and stuff, and he had high school mathematics. He studied that chapter for like something like 6 months, and he fixed the bug, and he started his own product like called Chef, which is the CTO now, and now it's one of the largest configuration systems in the world. But that's how he started. So it all started with a girl. It never started with anything else, what one might sometimes think. But what I like about this is you can also find this on GitHub. So this is, by the way, not PowerPoint. This also deeply impressed me. It's actually a set of web pages all put together. Just look at how nicely it is done. So this is a 2-hour talk, which I'm going to rush through to get into this hour. So we probably won't finish it, and please stop me at any time to ask a question, because what I like about this comes from the guys that started the internet, that started all of these things. So these are their experiences. So the first thing what they say is, and also what I want you to take from this, don't think of this as academic. You can use this stuff in your life as well. This will make you a great asset to any company or any organization, because more of a thinking framework than anything. So I didn't want to do all of the agile and scrum and all of that type of stuff, which you probably know a lot of. So I wanted to share this with you. So the first thing he says, excellence is achieved through long practice in one's skills. And I think that's something we lost in industry, because we became so bureaucratic and we focused on so many gumph, fluff, all of it, that we forgot that we have a key skill and that we must hone that skill. And how do you hone a skill? You don't do it by studying a book. You start with studying a book, but you actually practice it. And what he's relating this to is all Kung Fu. How does Kung Fu work? How do you become a black belt? How do you become a Dan? And to become a great IS specialist, you have to cultivate these type of skills, and that is the thinking framework he uses. So first thing which you need to understand, there's some basics things. Then there's some forms, and then there's the application of it. The basic things are all the same for everybody. That's that high level principle. So if you're in that one Kung Fu school, the Black Crane school, and there's another school of something else, doesn't matter what school you're from, one Kung Fu guy knows another Kung Fu guy, even though their styles differ. So what I like about it, he says there's some basics, and then there's some forms that differ, and then when you apply things, it's all different. There's different fighting styles, but one Kung Fu guy notices another Kung Fu guy, and they both realize they're Kung Fu. And again, that I like. So what is Kung Fu? It's a deep well of practical philosophy, broad experience unique to each individual, recognizable by the basics and forms practically applied to the situations in your life. And one thing that is for me very odd in, call it information systems, computer science, any of these things, and Julian and I chatted a bit about that. In most other areas, you have researchers at universities, laboratories, or whatever, who work out theories, who work out things, and then it filters through to industry. Computer science, or call it the digital revolution, is slightly different. It is as if just as much come from the industry as there is from academia. And what this guy is saying is, it is the guys who did it what you will see mostly here. And it's actually a big difference, because when I talk to other academics, they normally don't see what's coming from the industry. And when you talk to guys like me, I don't know what's coming from academia. And we need to start blending these things. And again, as with most things in IT, you get the SDLC guys, you get the Agile guys, you get the DevOps guys. They're always fighting what's better. Is it object orientation? Is it this? Yesterday we had an hour debate on, do we do access or not access? But in the end, it's not about who's right or who's wrong or victory. It's actually about progress. And let me quickly run through all of this, because I want to try to get through this. If you want to, you can get this document. It's actually on GitHub. And again, I like this because if you, a software practitioner, if you don't know what GitHub is, you have a problem, because almost all of the world's source code sits on GitHub. And what these guys did is they actually took this document and actually made it available to everybody. And they also said that if you're going to work there, you can issue a pull request. Do you know what a pull request is? You look at this thing, you change it, and you send it back and say, this is my contribution, and the guys will decide, do they put it in. That's how collaborative this new world is. It's very different to the stuff we did in the past. Firstly, what they say, it's a cultural and a professional movement. Focus on how we build and operate high-velocity organizations born from experience of its practitioners. Like I told you guys yesterday in class, Facebook releases 10,000 changes a day. That's high velocity. My organization can't even release a change during the middle of the week. They do it over weekends. And if you have big projects, you might be lucky to get something in 6 months' time. These guys work at 10,000 changes a day. It's a different paradigm. When I visited them and I've spoken to the Facebook guys, I walked out there and realized everything I thought I knew were false. Because what do they teach you where I come from? They teach you project management. No project management technique is going to get me to 10,000 changes a day. Other thing we pride ourselves is TOGAF and enterprise architecture and all of these things. I can do TOGAF till it comes out of my ears. I'm not going to do 10,000 changes a day. And almost everything I thought, which I invested in as an organization, we realized that's not important stuff. My organization had 500 certified PMBOK project managers. You don't get a higher standard for project management than that, but we could get nothing out of the door. That is the type of problems you sit with. So it's a cultural movement. It's like hip-hop, heavy metal, or I don't know what the dark is, but that's the cultural movement. But then in all of these things, there's a profession. You're a MCLE guitarist or animator or whatever. And I think that is one of the big things that dawned on me after this conference. We need to start investing in mastery again, into kick-ass technical skills as well. We can do as much as we want on the management level. If we're not sorted out at that bottom layer where people are really masters of their craft, you can do almost nothing. And again, if you look at the Facebooks and the Googles of the world, their hiring policies is all about two things. It's attitude and then mastery. You don't get in there if you're not the master of something. And my ego took a knock about 3 years ago. I had a call from Facebook actually. Facebook here in London. Phoned me and said, through a headhunting, do I would like to go for an interview at Facebook? And what would you say? Yeah, you know, this is now the chance of a lifetime to work for something like that. And the first thing, so just to give you a sense, this is for a management position, managing a team of probably 100 developers, which in my life, I've done that for years. Then they asked me, so to be honest, don't repeat this, I didn't even make the first 10 minutes of the interview. Not even the first 10 minutes. Because the stuff they asked me what contributions did I make to GitHub, what are the big projects I'm working on in terms of actually getting software to a customer, personally, not my team, personally. Because my team needs to look to me for the mastery. And what did I tell them? I do management, I pay salaries, I wipe snotty noses, I do that. Because that's what you do in big organizations. You handle all of the fluff around the software development process. Like I said, I didn't even make it 10 minutes into the interview. And again, that's what these guys do differently. It is really a focus on mastery. And again, this whole thing, DEVOPS, which is the scope of what we're trying to do, it is how do we build this software and how do we operate them. And there's a quote here, the same principles apply to low velocity organizations bring instability. So if you try and do these things, this really kick-ass getting the 10,000 changes in a day, your organization probably can't handle it. And it's actually going to break your organization. When our organization, so to give you a sense, we're probably about 7,000 people in IT, with which 1,000 are developers. So all of the developers are in my team, 1,000 people. And when we started doing these things, it caused huge issues because people aren't used to it, they don't know the techniques, all of it. We're 3 years into this journey now. Most of the modern guys, like if you want to Google the guys who did this well, is ING Bank and Barclays here in the UK is actually also doing good work on this. They have a big park here in Manchester, which I visited last year, and they're doing amazing work. But they tell you you need to budget for about 10 years if you're a traditional organization to get you to a type of agile DevOps type of organization. Now to go sell that to a board, to ask for funding for that, is a different skill, I can assure you, because everybody wants to know what you can do in the next 6 months. It's probably a 10-year cultural change you're looking at. And also, the amount of people you're going to lose. I probably think between 20 and 30 of your people, 20 to 30% of your people won't be able to make a change like this. Their brains are just not wired like that. And what did we say? These come from the practitioners. And this is a big thing, safety. How do you create safety within your applications and in your people? Because again, what happens when you introduce these new things is now Julian is not compliant. What do? We crucify him. We make a public example. Flog him till the morale improves. That's normally what we do. How do I create safety for people to actually handle all of these unintended consequences? Because you have no idea. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen which you have no control over. Your outages, for example, might go up. But because it goes up and then it starts dropping. How do you survive politically that transition? Because you've used it in a management meeting. And our previous CIO, she's a female, she reminds me of Margaret Thatcher. She had a nail like that. She did this. So what happened this weekend? Let me assure you, it is not a fun type of thing. But how do you get, so you need to build safety in, I'm going to talk about contentment and knowledge and all of those things. And this is also important, and this is something I learned also this week from you guys. You have a word for the socio-technical systems. It's not only about the products we build, it's also about the companies we build, because the companies influence the product, and it's all about the people. And I can say without a shadow of the doubt, I spent the last 4 years of my life, I'm actually 28, I just look this old, because of all of the issues I've had. I spent 70% of my time the first 2 years on getting methodology right, getting tooling right, tool chains, all of that. If I could have it all over, I would spend 70% on people and 30% on the rest. Because it's all about people change and how to get this mind and this heart and these hands to act in a different way. The other thing which people don't understand is the philosophy behind all of Agile, behind all of DevOps, behind all of the modern things is actually lean. And we spoke a bit about in class also. So it's all about eliminate is this a touch screen?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, that's actually quite nice. So eliminating waste, pull over push, Kaizen improvement, Kaikaku disruptive change, and small batch. If you can just build these couple of things in, you're already making good progress. So I'll play you, who of you were in class on Monday? I can't do it, it's on my laptop. I want to play you a video of how things work differently with pull. And sorry? So was it Tuesday? So you all remember that? That's a good video. So where they show you how pull is so far better than push. Now for guys like Jaco who wasn't there, let me just explain all of this to you.
Yes, please.
So what your wife does is when she gives you a task is normally a push. Jaco, do this. You know, that's what my wife does to me. But ideally, you should say, I'm ready for this work, give it now to me. And you pull the work off a backlog rather than telling people what to do. Can you imagine just what this little thing does to project management? Because how does project management work? I have a scope, I have a schedule, I have some timelines, and I ask you, so what's your estimates, all of it, so you will do this, I put it on the plan, and I do all of this. It's a push system. All of this is based on pull. You take the work when you are ready for it. Nobody can push the work on you. This means, what's the role of a project manager suddenly? Our organization had 400 project managers or 500 project managers. How does their role change? You see, it's not technical issues, it's all the people issues. It's all about getting better all the time. And the other big thing is small batch experimentation. And again, the image you could have in your mind. Behind all of this is the concept of flow. What do we normally teach people? You want to optimize your efficiencies, you want to lower your costs, you want to get more features out. What they're saying with modern lean is you have to optimize flow to get more and more things out at velocity. And the way to think about it is a highway. When your highway is 100% utilized, what's your speed? Zero. So if we keep our developers 100% busy, the work just comes in, all of that. What is going to happen to our speed? Nothing gets done. That's the video we watched. The other thing is, for small batches, if you consider trucks on a highway, what does that do to flow? And if there's a big truck in front of you, do you go fast or slower?
Yeah.
Far slower. And that's what big projects in your delivery pipeline do. Everything needs to line up behind them. There's so many dependencies on these things. Everything slows down. And the other thing you can think about is toll gates. I don't know if that's here in the UK. But whenever you have a boom across the highway, you need to pay a toll, which is basically a governance function in IT. What happens to flow? It slows down. So trucks, big batches, high utilization, and call it governance, is actually slowing things down massively because it's all handoffs, or in terms of governance. How do we solve the tollgate issue? I told you in class, can you remember? Oh, you say this is the brightest in the UK. That's where automation comes in. E-tags. In my country we have e-tags. It's a little thing you have on your car, you just drive through these things and it just picks you up. I think in London with the congestion stuff it's like that as well, it's just cameras. So how do you get over that governance problem in IT? It's not more, you can still actually do more governance, you just automate everything. And that is actually where the name of the game these days in governance is. You get these things called DevSecOps. How do you do development and security and operations all automated in one go? That is where these things are going. Let's skip this. So that was some of the background. This is important. What you will see in large organizations is we have these big teams, 100 people will build this big thing. What these guys are saying is everything gets done with small teams, and we spoke about that also. Roughly a Scrum team or any small team is cross-functional, and it's, let's say, 10 people. That is in the little team that. But each team needs to have a purpose, because people align behind a purpose. And make that purpose public. Should, for one sentence, include the people you are trying to help, which is basically your customers. Include your product. Include the change the people you are helping. Include the change the people you are helping will see. So put that into your sentence, but give people a purpose. We did a big SAP implementation, 2,000 people on that project. There were no accountability. There were no purpose, because it's so big and so diluted. Nobody really knew where they fit into the big thing. But if you're in a small team, kick-ass team, all committed, who have a purpose, you know what you're doing here, it's a very different proposition. I once visited a bank in Denmark, Danske Bank, who's doing some mobile thing on home loans and payments, which is really good. And the first thing they did is, when we visited, they didn't see any, but they told me why they're there. We want to make payments in Denmark seamless, and we want to give everybody a house. Did you see at what high level they operate. They keep it as a purpose. And the guys wanted to be there because they felt they made a difference. Another example is when, in that same trip, we also visited a place in Holland, in Amsterdam. And firstly, this company didn't want to meet with us because they said, you are evil, you work for a bank. And these guys really felt they're doing things for ethical reasons. So they almost didn't want to talk to us. We had to almost beg them because we're the evil guys that caused the 2008 crash. So they had really a purpose behind their company. And it sounds so motherhood and apple pie. But you cannot believe the difference it makes when people are actually engaged and they have a purpose behind what they want to do. We spoke a bit about that. And again, there's this thing about empowered teams. You have permission to act, you're paired with a context to make good decisions, with leaders who care about your purpose. Again, what happens in a lot of large organizations, you have no control. You cannot put something into production because there is an operations team. You cannot do your own security testing because the security people will make that decision. You cannot make budget decisions because the senior manager will sign off your form. So they cut your hands off. So how does it work in this? Oh, the other thing, which I don't know how it works here, is you're not even allowed to make changes because you build something and you give it to an operations team on this side and they run with it in future. I can see you laughing, it's exactly like that. So we sit with people in development and people in operations, and they're two different mindsets. Very different type of people. The ones get up in the middle of the night to do production support, the others are the fancy guys who studied computer science and just work 8 hours a day to do the project. They can't talk to each other. But that's how we develop. So you sit in this team, you develop, and then you give it to the operations people. To empower our teams, we did something radical. We instituted something called you build it, you run it. So that 10 people team build the software, they own the software, they maintain the software, the whole buck stops with that team. We had chaos for 6 months. For simple little reasons. One guy wrote me a letter this long. I am going to resign. I joined Standard Bank because I was told I'm not doing standby. Now I get phoned 5 times a night. I live in a small little place. The phone calls wake up my wife who has a little baby, whatever. Then I have to go sit in the car. I have to put the aerial on the roof because I need to phone the bank and there's not reception, so now I have an aerial and I have to do this 5 times a night. I cannot do it. It interferes with my work-life balance. I'm going to resign. Whatever. Long story. What people don't realize is operations people get paid for standby. Each time there's a call out, you get paid as standby allowance, you get something. So it's not in their best interest to fix anything. And they're that type of guys who actually do that. Now what that the developer does, a whole different story. I tell you, within 1 week, that 5 issues became 1 issue. Because now people had skin in the game to actually fix the problems. Again, nothing technical, simple little things. And that's basically what I tell the guy. Why the hell don't you just fix the problem? Then you won't get called during the middle of the night. Yeah, here too long, this too short, and da. He went back to his desk, hit that keyboard. 2 days later, the issues was because it's a batch job that failed every night. So when you have skin in the game, you know, like a baby being woken up 5 times a night, you start paying attention. So that's what empowered teams does, but with it goes ownership and also some decisions to act. Share your beliefs. This is also one of the biggest things I personally learned, which when you do these big changes, when you do these big scale changes, you always think, okay, first let me tell you what is the typical IT personality. It's the introvert who sits behind his keyboard, who's a bit awkward with other people, so his or her great joy comes in just writing mastery around code. I was like that, not that I can code anymore, but I had this fantasy in my mind that I could. And do you guys know the joke between an introvert and an extrovert IT guy?
Oh, no.
So the introvert looks at his own shoes when he talks to you, and the extrovert looks at your shoes. The thing I learned was, and for me it was probably the biggest personal growth I had to do, and for my colleagues as well, you have to go wider than your team. You have to talk to people in finance, in sales and marketing. Because when you do these changes, it's not only your little area, it hits the whole organization. And you cannot, there is no such thing as positional power. There is, but it's a very weak way of doing stuff. And you always think if you're the CEO, you can just give a command down. It never, there's always political factions and lots of different, you have to build relationships outside your speciality, and you also need to understand their perspectives. That's part of the reason why I'm this week. I'm not the IS guy. You know, I must almost go wash my hands or wash my mouth out when I say IS, because I'm a computer scientist. You know, it sounds far more sexy. But I had to learn some hard stuff this week, spending time with Yaku, because I actually didn't understand your field. And I learned something, so I couldn't do it if I didn't share and sat with him and got something back. So for me, I learned more here than you guys probably learned from me. And the wider your networks are, the more creativity, different viewpoints, different thinking there is. And I think that's where you guys are very good at, especially in this developmental field. There's different countries, different cultures, different contexts, and in a way you're very lucky. Because the way I was trained, we never had that. You were just a coder. And this also was one of the big things I've learned. No change can come from an edict from the top. You have to build these consensus. You have to do it, and you do it all through one-on-one relationships. And again, one thing I can tell you now, if you want to do really great work in life, learn how to drink coffee. You're going to take people for coffees about 10 times a day. Because your job as a senior leader is almost just that. Forging relationships and having conversations. Nobody does something but if you just tell them. They will just resist you in some way, shape or form. You need to build a relationship, and through that relationships things start working. And coffee, tea, whatever you do in the UK, have a pint. That is where the real magic lies, not through anything else. This is also interesting. When you build products, what these guys have learned is you need to solve a problem. You need to kill a pain point. And what do we do in the big corporates? You know, we just think of these are new, nice things we want to do because it sounds great. That's vitamins. Do things that, this screen is freaking me out. Kill somebody's pain in some way. Make something people love. It is needs, not wants. And again, if you look at the big banks, especially in this country as well, because we work a lot with it, we do a lot of what people want, not what they need. And again, if you look at the great apps of the world, the Ubers, all of those type of things, it's one specific need, something people need, and that makes the money. When you have too much money, like the big banks or the financial sector, okay, we've had too much money, we don't have any more. In this country, they're all government employees now. If you don't have money, it's actually a good thing because it forces you to do that one thing and to do that one thing well. Again, what do we do in project management? We start with some high thing, then we start doing a work breakdown structure, and we're sticking to a plan. These guys don't work like that at all. You have a type of a map. You start with a vision. You spend time with customers. You get their feedback in. You balance innovation with customer needs. You group them into themes with the outcome for each. You distill those into features and validate with customers. Your theme should hold. All of that says it's dynamic all the time. Every 2 weeks or whatever your delivery cadence is, you actually change direction because you're aligning to your vision. It's this map here at the background. It is not like project management that says, do this is where we want to go, because you don't know if there's a roadblock there or a tree fell across the road or whatever. So build a roadmap. Your themes should hold, your outcomes might hold. But what's the premise of project management? That your requirements are reasonable, fixed in the beginning. The premise here is, it might. And your features actually will change. What you thought in the beginning you're going to build, total different thing. And it's stupid things. To give you an example, we built a kids app. So what do banks are very clever? We want to get your kids to bank with us because people never change their bank account. So we want to get into your kids' mind. So we built this kids app. It took us 2 years. It's actually a 2-month little thing, but it took us 2 years. I'm not going to go into the reasons for that. A year after this kids app were rolled out, we only had 1,000 people that actually signed up for it, which is nothing. You need probably about 5 million people. And the reason for that is simple. Because in the beginning we said we want a kids app. And then that project managers just went and did it. What they don't realize is you still have to go to a branch, you still need to do the FICA, show your addresses for your children, all of those things. The hassle to install the app is just as much hassle as opening a whole new account. And nobody wanted to do that. But project management did not once change their direction in that whole thing. Because they have a budget, they have to spend their budget. They have their KRAs that they have to make. They have their bonuses to get at the end of the year. So they just, now we sit with a kids app which nobody uses, but project manager made his targets. And when you did this, you might have realized we need something for kids. You might have realized we want to get that, what do they call it, stickiness with the kids. Our features, which were a kids app, that might actually have totally have changed. We might have done something else. And this is something good. In every release you make, you always have to have a delighter. Something that says, wow, this is quite nice. And can you just hear the words are so different to project management? Painkillers, delighters. Julian, as a proper academic, would tell me, that is just called features or this. I like the word delighter even more. They just have a different ring to it. And this is your slide. And this is the mistake everybody makes, which is build features iteratively. But what we do is, so we all know, don't go big bang, start with little things. So what do? We start with a database and think that's iterative. Then we do the front end, that's iterative. It doesn't mean that. So you look at this example. So the requirement is paint the Mona Lisa. If we did it incrementally, we would have first painted the face. Then we would have painted that side. And that is what we think. That should be iterative. That's what most people do when you look at the way they actually execute. But what it means to build iteratively is you start with something more vague. We want to paint a woman in a pastoral setting. Not that I ever thought that the Mona Lisa was in a pastoral setting, but she is. And you start with the outline like that. And you take that to your customer and say, do you like this? Do you like a smile? Do you like, look at that hair, do you like the hands like that? Or that's how you build iterative. Then you start coloring it in. Then you go to the customer and say, what do you think of the color scheme? Do you like this or do you like that? And then you end up with something that's like that. But a lot of the time, our minds are wired to do things in a module. We start with a database or we start with this thing or that thing. This is what's meant by iterative. You start with high level of, or low level of detail, and through conversations with your customer constantly, you actually start to build these things. Did we do it with our kids app? Never, because then in month 1 we would have known all of these operational processes behind it would have killed the app. But because they were all separate things, they thought they were incremental, it never came together until the end.
Josef, I've got an eye on time and we'd like to have some time for questions and discussion.
Okay, let me see what else is interesting here. Oh, this is my other favorite quote. Solve theory arguments with execution. There are nobody that can argue about nonsense like IT guys, because they're normally very principled people. Try and stay away from it. Doesn't matter if you do Java or if you do whatever. Just get to execution. Execution will show you what is the better method. Again, how do you do progress? You measure stuff weekly. Anyone with anything to show, come and show their stuff. You invite everyone. It's not a project manager with a review meeting and all of those stuff. And you record it and you post it internally. What a lot of people do, they call it Showcase Fridays. If you come and showcase your code, everybody looks at it, they make some helpful comments. They call it the adding type method. You can't tell somebody that is crap, take it off. You know, that's what academics are normally very good at. I don't like that, I don't like that, take that. You know, we are all trained like that. In these meetings, you can only add. It's called plussing. You can only add to it. The guys normally know through the feedback what's wrong. And if you start, that's wrong, it just kills the whole spirit. So that's some stuff you can do. And choose languages and tools that, this is also, I'm thinking of our argument the other day. Forget all of these academic arguments about which computer languages, we are all polyglots. As a computer scientist, half the fun is learning something new. And small batch plus iterative development protects you from risk. So you can, because it's so iterative, you can actually make some mistakes. Have a bug database, you have to track all of your bugs. But you guys know that type of stuff. Continuous integration, this is interesting, just to tell people what that means. There's a test case that runs against all of your code every day. Every day, so what happens is you have a main project, you book your code out, you work on it and you put it back. In the old days, you took a whole piece out, you worked for 2 months on it and then tried to put it back and the whole thing fails and it's 2 weeks of integration testing. I see you smiling, is that true? These dudes book out every day and they compile back to main branch. They merge with main branch every day. Every day. And the second rule is you don't go home on a broken build. If you put your code back on that main branch and it breaks the build, you don't go home. What does it force you to do? Small changes. And you try to fix the build when it goes red. The 4I rule, nobody puts something back unless it's 2 people looking at it, so it's 2 pairs of eyes. In the past, we had all of these forms you had to fill in, and did you do all of this? We took all of that away and just got 2 clever guys, you and somebody else, and you talk somebody through your code, and that is a far better quality control principle than all of the checklists we've had previously. Right, test, we spoke about that. You can go read all of that. Bum, 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 bum. Everything goes through the same workflow, that's in all DevOps. This is important, it's all about availability. Can you imagine, like I said in class, how many times were Google or Facebook down for you? In a world where everybody accesses your app, availability is the name of the game. And something interesting there, you will always have outages because it's a complex world. The issue is not so much the outages. The issue is how to have mechanisms in place to fix it quickly. And that is where small batches come in. When the batch is small, you can always roll forward and not roll backward. What did we do in the past? We had a big 6 months rollout, things go in, something went wrong, we had to back out the whole change, chaos, all of those type of things, crucify people, post-mortems, all of that. When changes are this small, you actually can fix it almost in production. And what I mean by that, you fix it in dev and it's just a continuous process through to production. Metrics I'm not going to talk about, plan for capacity, I'm not going to talk about, blah, 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 blah. Incident response, that is something interesting you can go and Google. It's a way to make changes quickly, and it comes from fighter pilots. How do fighter pilots, when they're in a dogfight, how do they orientate themselves? You can go read that. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. I want to tell you a story. This is maybe the summary of this whole thing, because Jaco is looking at me with eagle eyes. Here's your steps if you want to be a great software developer. When you do stage 1, your problem selection, make it small enough to have a meaningful iteration within 8 weeks. And it's a vertical type of delivery, not a horizontal one. Think of the Mona Lisa there. Just start with something you can do in 8 weeks, The normal guideline is 2 weeks. Very few big organizations get that right. But do something end to end like that. Then make sure your teams, you assign these requirements to a team who can own it, build it, run it, who are empowered, who's available for context, you know, so there's people they can talk to if they need more information, they have a purpose. Product development, again, what's your value proposition? Build that roadmap and do themes, outcomes, features, include it like this: simplicity, extensibility, reuse. Never forget the non-functionals, iteration, features, iterate on features, manage risk through small batches, choose languages and tools that fit the job, ignore scale. We went through that. Everybody spends the first year just trying to make sure the thing is so flippin' robust that if we roll it out to 200 million people, it won't fall over. You don't even know if 200 million people will use it. So rather get something quick and dirty out of the door. When it starts buckling, then you start iteratively fixing that. When argue about theory, refocus on execution, demo every week, iterate on features, we spoke about that, we spoke a bit about that. We didn't speak about that, but that is operations, which is availability, capacity, alert, incident response, hold post-mortems, deliver, final demo, retrospective. Let me tell you a story which will sum all of this up. Like I said, 5 years ago, I got appointed as head of development, and I thought I knew everything. I thought I was the best thing since sliced bread. That stage I had a PhD in artificial intelligence, computer science. I was teaching. I was like Jacob in this context, probably a senior lecturer in software engineering, and I get this big job at this bank. And everything failed dismally. Everything were broken, and everything I tried failed. And it was very humiliating. It was really, really tough. And 9 months into this job, I was lucky enough to get invited to go to see a couple of companies in Silicon Valley, how they work. And a lot of it was useless because a lot of it was sales talk, and trying to Google was all sales. But there was somebody who worked at Standard Bank who got a job at Facebook, and he set us up with Chuck Rossi. And Chuck Rossi works for somebody who works for Zuckerberg. And this dude is like weird. So first let me tell you, 5 years ago I dressed in a silk suit. Italian silk suit, because that's what the executive at the bank wears. We walked in there and you never have time because it's all meetings. Chuck gave us an hour of his time. His release for Facebook. And like I said, he worked for somebody who works for Zuckerberg. He was also the 100th employee. So he's a billionaire just through, he's been with him from the start. You can Google this dude, Chuck Rossi. There's lots of YouTube videos. And he sat there, and we walked into a meeting room like this, and he was working on his laptop, and there was a screen behind him like that. We were the only meeting in his diary. How can somebody that senior have all this time available? I've never seen that in a corporate executive. Second thing, he was working on the command line. He was doing VI. I don't know if you still remember VI. This dude is doing VI. That is like hardcore stuff. The only thing he used Office were for calendaring. The rest were everything. Even his mail were command line. Again, that shows you mastery. He's still in the work. So I asked, we spent an hour with him, and then he said, guys, I like you. Why don't I go make you some food? And he took us down to their thing, and he made us a burrito, and we just shoot the breeze with him while we were walking. I said, so what policies, procedures, I come from bank, you need all of this type of stuff. He said, nah, nothing. He says, what programming language? He says, I don't care, every team can decide what they want to do. That was like I said, what do you do about project management? We don't do any project management. Crazy dude. Then I asked him about enterprise architecture, which is a big thing. We don't do any of that. I said, so what rule do you have in place? And he says, there's only one rule. And then when I looked there, they have this poster culture. They have these posters all around. Now, close your ears, but this is really, the poster says, if you break production, Chuck will fuck you up. It was the only rule. The only rule for software development at Facebook. All of the other rules were made within teams. And it totally changed the way I thought about everything. because if these guys can do it, there must be other ways. And it's just a total different paradigm to what we were used to. And to get to that, 10 years or more, and it's mostly organizational change. Okay, Jaco, sorry, I took this, so now it's your time. But that is what changed me, this visit to Chuck. Chuck also, by the way, has a pull-up a bar next to his desk. He comes to work in camo, you know, like typical American. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a shotgun in his pants or whatever. But shotgun, pull-up bar next to it is just a different culture. Just so different to what you... I don't know, you guys who work, are your companies like that? Sorry?
No. I mean, I work here and it's very well structured.
Yeah, and you would expect a university to be the freest institution in the world. There is more bureaucracy at the university than probably at the large banks these days. It's amazing.
Okay,
These guys get stuff done. That's the interesting thing.
Yeah, we have a little bit of time for questions if you can hang around. We started a bit late because of the venue and so on, so we're going to spend a couple of minutes. But if you need to go, yeah, please go. If you've got some questions for us, fire away.
Yes.
How do you make that change?
I don't know. No, so what I can tell you doesn't work. And by the way, I haven't been trained in change or anything. But what has happened was quite interesting. And for me, that's probably the biggest lesson. We tried some things. We tried, the first thing we did was we wanted to come up with this purpose and cultural statement because we felt culture was important. First mistake we made was we thought we'll take the executive away for an off-site to go define what the culture should look like and then cascade it down. You know, that's what we normally do. And I realized that's so countercultural, it should come from the bottom. So we did a couple of things where people could opt in, they want to go on an offsite, but then they had to complete 2 hours online training. What's the Facebook culture? What is the Netflix culture? What is all of these different cultures? Because you cannot ask people what the culture should be if they don't know what is possible. So they had to do this thing, and the guys who passed the test got invited to the offsite, and then we made them change managers, and we did all of that. That worked well for 6 months, and then it failed. Then we did something else, we did some cultural surveys, and we had offsites where again we moved certain things. That worked, and then it failed 8 months later. Then we did servant-based leadership because we want to change the thing of leader as a servant. That worked like a charm for a year. Now it's running out of steam. So then I spoke to a real great change manager, and they told me change is like a rubber band. You pull it out, and then it pulls back. You pull it out, and you pull it back. You have to do lots of different things all the time, continuously, to make people fit for this change. If you think you're going to go in with one plan, with little stickers on your phone, and in bank culture you always have these things behind the toilet doors, which are on security or whatever, it works, but it's not enough. You have to do all of these things differently, and ask your people. I got more from our own people than I got from professional change managers. And I hired an anthropologist, for example, to help us with some of this, and he told us to try and do religion. Don't laugh, because the religion has been around for 2,500 years. And the tools they have to do large organizational societal change is working, if you think about it. So he told us to create hope for people, also create a sense of hell for people. You know, if this happens, you could get into trouble, but also create hope. Have rituals. What makes religion that people want to do things over and over again? It gets ritualized. So he taught us some of that, and he taught us about a couple of other things. So I tried to go wide. I hired an anthropologist, I hired a social psychologist, which we never hire in IT. But these guys helped us to think through it, and it became a multi-pronged approach. It wasn't the one ring, the one thing, anything like that. But I can't think of one single thing that works on its own. Yes?
Yeah, I think I agree with that completely. And I think it's also to do with the nature of the business that you are operating in. You have to think very carefully in terms of project management and change in terms of the environment. In banks, for example, this is a very, very special environment, business environment, where there are lots of rules and regulations and bureaucracy that is really can prohibit the way of change can happen and interfere in that. And it's not very easy. So thinking about moving different philosophies and different way of implementing things and managing projects from different contexts and try to apply it in a different environment, it is not going to work that easily at all. It's going to be faced with lots of complexity and lots of challenges. And it's a recurrent issue here in the UK, for example. I've been following it through the cases of failure, several cases of IT failures, and a huge amount of money, especially after 2008, huge amount of money being wasted on failing IT projects. And where this money is coming from, where the budget is wasted. Is there any rationality? So this was the question that I wanted to come about with. Where is the rationality in terms when it comes to investments, decisions, and budgets, and all these things? Why there is no learning from mistakes? Why it is, given that we're talking about this specific business environment, which is to do with banks, why there is no learning from mistakes? Why we keep on stretching the band? So, can you have a...
So I think that's a brilliant observation, and it only came too late to me in life, that type of thing. So well done at your young age, So currently 70% of IT projects fail. My only thing I can think about what it could be is, remember, this art of execution is a relatively young science. Project management, as it stands today, probably start with the Manhattan Project, maybe some other things. So we're probably in the age of alchemy, in understanding how these things work. We're not building bridges in IT. We're not building, also, by the way, I also sometimes think, what is construction projects on time rate? I also don't think it's that high, but we have the science called project management, or it's actually not working. And we try and learn from our mistakes, but it's probably like we need a paradigm shift. Who's the great philosopher who speaks about that? Kuhn. You need a Kuhn shift, and we don't. Our best guess at this moment, and it's a guess, because we don't know what we don't know, is probably some of these agile-ish type methods. And if you think of it as the art of execution, for where the requirements are not known up front, it looks like the success rates are better. Will we get to 100%? I can tell you we're not even close to that, even with Agile. So I think it's a maturity of the science. I think it's a very complex science, probably a bit like climatology or something. We're not like physics that is, it's far more down the drag. That's my personal musings on it. I don't have an answer for you. But everybody has their own little, and PMBOK or the PMI publishes every year what makes projects fun. But
it's just the latest event that happened with KFC, for example, and the problem they had at the closure of all the more than half of their restaurants around because of switching the supplier and how they're managing the logistics. It's simple. It's very, very simple basics. You can't do a big bang change. You can't change your supplier once, all at once. You can't. So it's just basic things that should have they should have avoided. How come
there are so many layers in terms of suppliers, and in terms of the suppliers and distributors as well as the projects, IT projects. There are so many layers in there that it's almost impossible to make all the change. So I think that's why I kind of agree with that title. It can be an iterative change, but then the iterative changes within the change that makes it impossible to change as a whole. So I quite like the idea of going from a kind of big iterative, because I think that's what we've been doing, is basically modularizing everything, and that's where the change breaking. So if we are actually looking at it from the big picture and then making it iteratively making more what's the word? Detailed, then it would be easier, but I don't think we're at that stage. I think maybe that's one of the problems.
Guys, we're just running out of time. So
Sorry for taking so long.
thank you for coming around. Let's give Josef a hand. Thank you, Josef.